Solidarity for a Better Africa. This is a well-crafted and thought theme that is aimed to serve not only as a rallying call, but also as a roadmap to our collective future. In our sub-region, we must remain vigilant in defending and safeguarding the significant gains we have made through the sacrifice of our countless heroes and heroines of our struggle. The freedom we enjoy today is as much about the political independence of our nation as it is about social justice, equality, and human rights for all our people. I believe that in preparing this summit, our Secretary-Generals and their supporting staff have taken a deeper analysis of the situation at hand. And having listened to the recap, I can only say congratulations to you. We need to do things differently and better in order to get different and better results. And that is exactly what I got from the recap received this morning. Director of Ceremonies, there are concerted efforts by those who opposed to our independence, who are being guided by their selfish, who are hiding themselves in the economic, political, and diplomatic conspiracy to undermine the gains of our revolution. They are motivated, as we are all aware, by both domestic and foreign policy interests, and actively seeking to undermine the political dominancy of our liberation parties with the long-term objectives of weakening and unseating us from power altogether. Their target is always our youth, who are the majority in our countries, who are the majority voters in our countries. And that's where we have to pay attention to make sure that our young people, they remain focused, they remain vigilant in order to defend and protect our revolution. The outcomes of most of our recent elections in our respective countries are a clear warnings that should not be taken very lightly. We have won our elections, but we have noted how we have won. And that's why a summit like this one is very timely, is very critical, and we need to take it very serious for our revolution to remain for the current and future generation. This is particularly true for the liberation movements in Southern Africa, namely the ANC in South Africa, MPLA in Angola, ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe, FRELIMO in Mozambique, and SWAPO part in Namibia, who were critically in the liquidation of the colonialism and apartheid. Others in the region and elsewhere in Africa, we all know what had happened to them, that they are becoming part of the history, which is really regrettable. And all is now in our hands not to allow this situation to continue in Southern Africa and in Africa. Our resoluteness has brushed the ego of the former occupying power as colonial masters, who seek to avenge the humiliation they suffered from African National Liberation Movement. We should continue, comrades, to relentlessly uphold the historical legacy of the armed struggle for national liberation of the people of Southern Africa. For the SWAPO Party, the Liberation Movement Summit 2025, we believe it grants us an opportunity to reaffirm our resolve to defend the hard-won gains of our national liberation, advance integrated socio-economic development, and strengthen Pan-African unity in the face of escalating global challenges. Director of Ceremonies, it's imperative that our sister parties, ANC, MPLA, FRELIMO, ZANU-PF, SWAPO Party, and CCM advance regional collaboration so as to ensure our collective efforts serving the true interest of our people. SWAPO Party stands ready in our commitment to the enduring principle of international solidarity that has sustained the historical struggle of Southern Africa's liberation movement. It's indeed our resolve to deepen this sisterhood bond by blood to counter the racing forces of right-winger racism, new colonialism, economic exploitation, and economic blockade that threaten our very sovereignty and progress. Today, unlike in the past, we face complex and unprecedented challenges, including social economic inequality, high youth unemployment, migration pressure, and the rise of populist and reactionary forces, all intensified by a global scramble of Africa's critical resources, including Namibia's vast mineral wealth. We condemn in the strongest terms the imperialist ambitions demonstrated by policies that seek to divide Africa and exploit its resources for artificial intelligence, digital technology, and green energy. SWAPO Party rejects this unpopular agenda and recommits to multipolar world order rooted in Pan-Africanism, anti-imperialist, and international solidarity, underscoring South-South cooperation. Thus, our first task is to forge a united front, reinforcing that liberation is not an end point, but an ongoing process that requires our sustainable commitment, vigilance, and activism. Our strength lies not only in resisting external threat, but in our ability to hold each other's hands and hold one another accountable as sister parties. Accountability is the cornerstone of our legitimacy and the trust of our people, or our people have placed on us. We must challenge each other to deliver governance that prioritizes the needs of our citizens, tackling unemployment, ensuring equitable resource distribution, and addressing the inspiration of our youth, women, and indigenous minority. We must, as a region, fight corruption. It's a cancer that, if allowed to grow, it is going to bury our revolution. The growing disconnect between our movements and the young generations, coupled with the fragmentation of women issue and minority representation, demands that we critically assess our policies and practices. We should redouble our efforts to address socio-economic challenges and empowerment of these constituencies. Furthermore, comrades, we should devise effective strategies to engage and communicate with our youth to attain a positive impact on their lives and realize momentum gains of our parties. By holding each other to the highest standard of transparency, inclusivity, and effectiveness, we will ensure that our liberation legacy translates into tangible benefit for our people, from quality education and health care to economic opportunities and social justice, whereby we'll be able to close any gap which our opponents might want to use to divide or to take our people from us. SWAPO party calls for a strategic unit among sister parties who have played a significant role in the liberation of Southern Africa. We must confront the rise of the foreign-funded civil society organizations, NGOs, and economic welfares through sanctions and unjustifiable tariff with a unified front. We must share with each other strategies on confronting the civil cause for regime change in our respective countries by some foreign forces through opposition parties and civil societies in our countries. This summit, comrades, must forge a cohesive strategy for a coordinated migration management, equitable socio-economic development, and the protection of our natural resources. We need to commit to building international alliances to amplify our forces and resist exploitation while remaining true to the principle of human rights, peaceful conflict resolution, and multilateralism. Comrades, the time for the revolution renewal has come. SWAPO party pledge to work hand in hand with our sister parties in our quest to deliver a Southern Africa and Africa where the gains of our liberation benefit our people. Together, we will honor the sacrifice of our forefathers, confronting the present challenges, and build a future where Southern Africa and Africa stands as a beacon of freedom, justice, and solidarity for the global South. As I conclude, comrades, we are gathered here in Johannesburg. Let us defend the gains of liberation with unwavering resolve, prioritizing the integrated economic development and our shared mission, and strengthen the bonds of solidarity that will pave the way for a better Africa, as put in our theme. Together, we have the power to forge an equitable and a prosperous future for our political parties and our nations. Let us lead with courage, vision, and a deep sense of responsibility to the generations that will come after us. The time for action is now. Let us move forward together with dignity, purpose, and unity. Aluta! Aluta! A Victoria! A Victoria! We cannot just be in the struggle and we do not become victorious. Thank you very much.
You strike a woman, you strike the rock. Wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokodo. Uzakufa. Finish and clear. Comrades, Your Excellencies and comrades, we now call upon Comrade President Emmerson Mnangagwa, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe and First Secretary of ZANU-PF. Third President of Zimbabwe, President Mnangagwa, joined the Zimbabwean African Liberation Army, the military wing of ZANU, at the tender age of 21. He has held a series of senior posts in the government of an independent Zimbabwe and became First Secretary of ZANU-PF in 2017. Comrade President.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Mozambique, Comrade Daniel Chapo, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Namibia, Comrade Nandi Ndaitwa, representatives of other sister political parties and liberation movements who are here, Secretary-Generals who are present, chairpersons of the Veterans, Women and Youth Leagues of various parties who are here, comrades and friends. May I begin by congratulating our sister liberation movement of the ANC and you, Your Excellency, the President of the ANC and the Republic of South Africa, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, for convening this timely summit of our liberation movements. The well-considered theme of our summit, and I quote, defending the liberation gains, advancing integrated socio-economic development, strengthening solidarity for a better Africa, end of quote. This encapsulates the duty and responsibility before us all today. Allow me to further express gratitude for the generous hospitality extended to me and my delegation since our arrival here in the Republic of South Africa. Your Excellencies, since the last summit of former liberation movements, our region has lost many distinguished veterans of our liberation struggle who fought and sacrificed their lives for the independence, the freedom and democracy we all enjoy today. Their selfless dedication and unwavering commitment to the liberation of the region and the continent as a whole will remain etched in our collective memory for generations to come. May their departed souls continue to rest in eternal peace. Your Excellencies and fellow comrades, in March 2024, ZANU-PF hosted the meetings of the leagues of our parties, wherein calls on the need to jealously guard, protect and promote the revolutionary agenda were loud and very emphatic. This session of summit presents us with another opportunity to review our experiences, while also consolidating our shared ideals, principles and aspirations for the prosperity of our peoples. The mission before us, as stated in our summit theme, is an urgent imperative. Counter-revolutionary forces have doubled up antics to divide and fragment our movements. They are unrelenting in their nefarious quest to obliterate the liberation of movements from the political radar of our region. However, we must remain emboldened by our rich liberation history, which is our greatest teacher. The millions of people who look to liberation movements with hope for a better tomorrow should be a source of inspiration for us. Our democracy, freedom and independence did not come on a silver platter. The infrastructure that denied us democracy and independence has muted and expresses itself in numerous forms. These include through interference in the internal affairs of our parties and governments, sabotage of our economies, and at West, covert support of conflict and war in our jurisdictions. We cannot be complacent. Robust and fluid strategies are necessary to guarantee the perpetuity of our people-centered governance. We defeated them in the past, and we shall defeat them again and again and again in future. Through our unity and unbreakable solidarity, victory is and shall remain certain. Our synergies and collaboration must be bold and purposeful, while the exchange of ideas and perspectives among our parties should be responsive and honest to the realities we face. We are people-centered. Colossal revolutionary mass parties. In honor of the many departed gallant sons and daughters of our region who fought against colonialism, apartheid, and oppression, we can never give up. We have a sacred duty and responsibility to retain power for the purpose of advancing the people's agenda. This is what our heroes fought for. We should never allow ourselves to lose power. We must look into the future with confidence and optimism, with the people and our countries being masters of our own destinies under the banner of our liberation movements. Deliberate support for production and productivity, as well as sustainable enterprises, are key cogs towards propelling the diversification and growth of our respective economies and countries. The modernization and industrialization agenda, particularly among rural communities, is a responsibility deserving our focus, my dear comrades. Transformational policies, programs, and projects are essential in this regard. In the case of Zimbabwe, our ZANU-PF government is drilling balls in each of the 35,000 villages and establishing an agro-based community-managed village business unity of the 35,000 villages. These are mitigating the impact of climate change, guaranteeing household food security, providing throughout horticulture exports, and ultimately improving rural incomes. The fruits of our independence and freedom translate to affordable education, health care, transport, clean water, and sanitation, among other basic social services. Let us not shy away from looking at new financing models and partnerships to deliver on our mandates. The education sector should be the bedrock upon which we advance innovation, science and technological development towards meeting the needs of our economies and our people. Audacious policy frameworks and government procurement quotas are crucial to accelerate the growth of startups, innovation and inventions by our talented young people. Similarly, the youth and women are vital to the growth of all sectors of the economy, including in the mining, agriculture, infrastructure development, and tourism, among others. In our case, ZANU-PF has adopted strategies to empower the youth, not only through issuance of mining claims, but also with equipment, so that they participate in the mining value chains. In the agriculture sector, mechanization programs targeted at the youth have proved a transformational empowerment tool towards increased agriculture productivity among our young farmers. Youth and women-led consortiums are participating in infrastructure development in both urban and rural areas. ZANU-PF is also implementing numerous projects aimed at enhancing the welfare and income base of the veterans of the liberation struggle. At a macroeconomic level, the multi-pronged policy reforms adopted by our ZANU-PF government have seen stability and GDP growth expected to around 6% this year, to be around 6% this year. In honor of our founding fathers and in the true spirit of Pan-Africanism and the regional integration, let us do more to promote trade among our countries. My dear comrades, the strategies we deployed to keep the grassroots galvanized in our fight against colonialism and oppression must never be forgotten. The correct line of the revolution remains our guiding beacon. Our rich liberation heritage should be harnessed by today's youthful and tech-savvy generation to grow our party membership base. Leveraging on our political party schools and leadership institutions, deliberate efforts to nurture politically conscious young people and cadres who have knowledge and an understanding of our history, ideology, and the value systems should be scaled up. We should not allow our young people to invent themselves. The legacy of luminaries and veterans of our movements, along with our rich liberation heritage, must be kept alive, immortalized, and memorialized. In this spirit, Zimbabwe is grateful to Angola, Mozambique, Tanzania, and Zambia for their part and facilitation of my government's program to rehabilitate liberation war heritage sites within their jurisdictions. Similarly, Zimbabwe continues to support South Africa in its ongoing repatriation program of departed liberation luminaries who fell during the struggle and were buried in Zimbabwe. We shall cooperate. My dear comrades, united we stand and divided we fall. Unity, cooperation, and solidarity amongst ourselves as liberation parties must realize maximum benefits. To achieve this, it is critically important that we address contradictions within our respective parties and overall body politic. Divergent views and strategies need not cause fractures detrimental to the revolution. Our colossal movements must remain bigger than individuals in the party. While the invisible ends are apparent, we should, as independent Pan-Africanists, close ranks in pursuit of common goals to develop our countries. Let us set aside all forms of differences and confront our challenges head-on while maintaining the integrity and the correct line of our revolutionary parties. We are one, sharing common values and ideas. Those who seek to foist their nefarious and foreign agendas in our region must be exposed and denounced without shame. Your Excellencies and dear comrades, multilateralism and the rules-based international order, as embodied in the United Nations Charter, remains the sustainable guarantor of the principle of equality of nations. This summit, my dear brothers and sisters, therefore, presents us with an opportunity to revive our Pan-African ideals of unity, African solutions to African problems. We should not borrow solutions from elsewhere. Non-aggression, peaceful coexistence, South-South cooperation. That's our song. ZANU-PF is unwavering in its solidarity with the people of the Sahrawi and Palestine. We call for peace in Gaza and the West Bank, as well as the redress of the dire humanitarian crisis in that region. We condemn unilateral coercive measures and the so-called targeted sanctions deployed as a foreign policy tool. In this spirit, ZANU-PF is appreciative of the support, solidarity, and unequivocal calls from sister liberation movements towards the unconditional lifting of illegal sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe. Once again, congratulate the ANC for hosting this successful summit. The assignment before us, comrades, that of protecting our rich liberation legacy while pursuing shared prosperity of our peoples, is dependent on stability and security in our countries and the region at large. The responsibility and the duty to build brighter and more prosperous countries for the next generation lies with us, liberation movements. Let us therefore bravely and unapologetically reassert and recommit ourselves to defending our founding values, defending our independence, our sovereignty, our freedom and our democracy and our equality without apology. We are the only tried, trusted and dependable drivers of socio-economic justice for Africa, development and regional stability. The people's power shall always remain firmly secure under the governments of liberation movements. This is my view. Forward forever, backward never. Luta continua, victory is certain. Long live our revolution. Long live our unity, freedom and independence. Amanda! Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade President. Excellencies, comrades, it now gives me a great honor and joy to welcome to the podium the President of the ANC, our host, and President of the Republic of South Africa, Comrade Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. At the age of 22, President Ramaphosa was arrested and spent 11 months in solitary confinement for organizing pro-FRELIMO rallies. A trade unionist, Comrade President Ramaphosa was elected Secretary-General of the ANC in 1991 and elected President of the African National Congress in 2018 up until today. Comrade President.
Thank you, Program Director, Secretary-General of the African National Congress, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa, First Secretary of ZANU-PF and the President of Zimbabwe, Comrade Daniel Chapo, President of FRELIMO, and President of the Republic of Mozambique, Comrade Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa, President of SWAPO and President of the Republic of Namibia, Comrade Mara Batista Kiosa, Deputy President of MPLA, Comrade Mizengo Kanyaza Pinda, Member of the Central Committee of Chama Cha Mapinduzi and leader of the delegation from CCM, former President Thabo Mbeki, Secretaries General of the ANC, MPLA, SWAPO, FRELIMO, ZANU-PF, and CCM, and leaders and representatives of our liberation movements, youth and women's leagues of our liberation movement, elders and veterans, invited leaders and representatives from fraternal parties, members of the diplomatic corps, delegates, and of course members of the media. It is with a great deal of honor, revolutionary pride, and heartfelt gratitude that I greet you all on behalf of the African National Congress, a host of this summit, and the people of South Africa. The Liberation Movement Summit is more than a conference. It is what one would call a homecoming. It is a convocation of liberation movements rooted in shared histories of struggle bound by a tradition of resistance and united in a future that demands memory, imagination, boldness, and bravery. We are pleased that we are joined by fraternal organizations and parties from across the world who share the goals of liberation and freedom from oppression. Together, our movements were forged in the cauldrons of anti-apartheid and anti-colonial struggle. And today, together, we must be forged anew in the fire of a new struggle. The struggle for social and economic justice for our people, regional unity, integration, and sovereignty in an increasingly hostile global order. We gather this year on the 64th anniversary of the independence of Tanzania, the 50th anniversary of the independence of Angola and Mozambique, the 45th anniversary of the independence of Zimbabwe, and the 35th anniversary of the independence of Namibia. It is a moment not just for celebration, but it is also a moment for critical reflection. We must honor the memories of our founding giants, Julius Nyerere, Eduardo Mondlane, Samora Machel, Agostinho Neto, Sam Nujoma, Robert Mugabe, Joshua Nkomo, Kenneth Kaunda, Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, and many others. Their vision, courage, boldness, bravery, as well as sacrifice, laid the foundations of a free Southern Africa that we live in today. We remember with deep reverence the recently departed Comrade Sam Nujoma and Comrade Hage Geingob of Namibia, stalwarts of SWAPO and lifelong warriors for justice, equality, and dignity. We also, here in South Africa, remember recently departed David Dabede Mabuza, President of the Republic of South Africa and the African National Congress. We're also pleased that we have amongst us fraternal parties from across the world. This is what makes this summit so special, so impactful. We welcome the Communist Party of China, the Polisario Front from the Sahrawi Republic, Fatah from Palestine, the FLN of Algeria, United Russia, the BNF of Botswana, the Sandinistas of Nicaragua, and the PAC of Azania, as well as other continental organizations that are here represented, and other parties that I may not have mentioned. But more importantly, continental organizations like the Pan-African Women's Organization, party political schools that are here represented, youth, women, and veterans leagues of our various movements. Even as we remember our victories, we must confront a hard truth. Our liberation movements are under siege from within and without. Most of our movements are having to contend with declining electoral support, shifting demographics, frustrated young people in our various countries, economic inequality, and foreign interference. These trends speak to a deeper crisis, the disconnect between our founding narratives and the lived realities of a new generation of young people. It is a generation that sees and appreciates less of our past victories and more of our present shortcomings. It is a generation that demands jobs, justice, dignity, housing, education, health, and security, and sees our movements as distant, rigid, and slow to adapt. This disconnect amongst the population emboldens the external attacks on our sovereignty, our independence, our development, and security. In fact, there has been ample evidence that international actors use the legitimate grievances of our people to attack progressive governments. We have seen a revival of the forces of unilateralism, neocolonialism, and imperial extraction. There is a renewed offensive against transformation, progressive policies, and multilateralism, and a re-weaponization of global institutions, and a deliberate effort to divide and control Africa through transactional diplomacy and economic coercion. At the heart of this campaign lies a battle for control, not only of our politics through unbridled, persistent attempts for regime change. They also seek to lay claim to our critical and rare minerals they require for both green technology and digital economy and artificial intelligence. They are also in a battle for our data, our land, our people, and our future. This is a new scramble for Africa. But this time it is not only a scramble for territory, it is a scramble for digital, economic, ideological, and ecological scramble. For centuries, our continent has paid the price for rapid industrial development of the global north. Our people were enslaved and subjugated. Our land was occupied and our natural resources were stolen. Today, Africa is paying the environmental price for the prosperity of others. Although the African continent is not responsible for the warming of the planet, it is most vulnerable to its effect. That is neither just nor is it sustainable. Countries in the global north developed on the back of Africa's human capital, on the back of Africa's natural resources and cultural destruction. The price has been centuries of extraction, exploitation, and underdevelopment, whose effects are still felt up till today. As Walter Rodney argued in How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, Europe was developed by means of the same underdevelopment of Africa. To meet present-day challenges, we require urgent, substantial, and sustainable solutions to Africa's challenges. We need to find innovative ways of resolving our problems and challenges. The question we must answer is whether our movements are able to provide the leadership that is required in the world of today and tomorrow. The answer must lie in our ability to transform our movements, our governments, our economies, our societies, and our consciousness. We must recognize that our political independence is incomplete without economic justice. It is incomplete without resolving the question of land. It is incomplete unless we industrialize, we beneficiate the minerals that are extracted from our land, and we create jobs for our youth. As a region, we must replace the colonial extractive model with regional value chains, anchored in our resources, driven by our young people, and fueled by innovation. This means we must harness the transformative power of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to advance regional and continental integration. Africa will never prosper for as long as we send all our raw materials abroad and rely on factories far from our shores for the finished goods and the advanced services that we use. Rather than export rock, sand, and soil, we should be exporting finished products that the world needs. We must process, build, and produce all that we need here on the African continent. This calls on us to invest in infrastructure that extends beyond national boundaries, to build a region that is both physically and economically integrated. As liberation movements from across Southern Africa, we are well placed to drive this important effort. We must acknowledge that many of the threats we face are internal. For many of us, corruption and patronage have contributed to various degrees to the destruction of our social fabric, to the weakening of the state, and to the disunity of our movements. The competition for public positions and resources has undermined our ability as liberation movements to adequately respond to the needs of the present moment that our people have. We need to be united in our efforts to rid our societies of corruption and crime, and we need to work together, drawing on each other's experiences, to rebuild and renew our movements. Our movements were built through the struggles of the young people of the time. Today, we must rebuild our movement the same way. The impatience of young people is not something that we should fear. It is to be welcomed because it signals the determination of new generations of citizens to strive for a better life, for a more just society. It is our responsibility as liberation movements to draw on that desire and that energy to undertake a new struggle with youth of our various countries at the forefront. Our youth leagues must not be ceremonial wings of our movements, but they must be engines. There must be engines of ideological clarity, economic innovation, digital activism, and organizational unity and renewal. We support the establishment of the Permanent Youth Secretariat and the Liberation Youth Development Fund, as well as the call for continental political education through our party schools, as well as youth exchanges and policy participation across our region. There can be no freedom without the liberation of women. The achievement of gender equality is a moral, social, and economic imperative. If women do not prosper, society does not prosper. If girls are unable to complete school, if women cannot find decent work or run their own businesses, if they do not receive equal pay for equal work, if they are vulnerable to violence and abuse, then our freedom will not be complete and our societies will remain forever poor. We welcome the comprehensive resolutions in this regard, including on land equity for women, reproductive rights, and the call to mainstream women in leadership, in trade, in learning, and in peace processes. We echo the call to center the Pan-African Women's Organization in our regional agenda and commit to elevating women's voices and leadership in every aspect of our movements, government, and the private sector. One of the most dangerous narratives today is the weaponization of migration. We must reject xenophobia in all its forms. Migration itself must not be seen as a threat. It is a consequence of underdevelopment, war, global inequality, not a moral failing of those who move in search of hope. As liberation movements, we must advocate for people-centered regional migration policies that affirm dignity, rights, and solidarity as well. We must never forget our freedom struggles were international in nature. Our freedom was achieved not only by the tireless struggles of our peoples, but by the efforts of people from across the world. Drawing on that experience, we reaffirm our support for the peoples of Palestine, Western Sahara, and Cuba. We condemn in the strongest terms the crimes against humanity and the genocide committed by the apartheid state of Israel against the people of Palestine. We are particularly horrified by the deliberate starvation of the people of Gaza. We call on the state of Israel to allow food and essential aid to be allowed in and to be distributed amongst the starving Palestinians. We call for an immediate end to the relentless bombardment of civilians and the destruction of their homes, their hospitals, their places of worship. We call on the world to stop the murder of children and babies through starvation. Our position remains very clear. Liberation is indivisible. We are not truly free until all are free. This summit should be a turning point on the important issues of principles that we hold dear. We must institutionalize mechanisms for mutual accountability amongst our movements. We must find and hold each other to higher standards, not only out of competition, but out of love, duty, and historical necessity. If we are not robust and frank in our self-criticism and introspection, we will not be able to renew and adapt to a rapidly changing balance of forces. We will not be able to ensure that our future survival is sustainable. Going forward, we must establish a framework for deeper inter-party collaboration across governance, socio-economic transformation, and ideological education as well. We should champion the vision of a multipolar, multicultural, equitable, inclusive, and a just world order. We should demand reform of the political and economic global governance institutions and the end of unilateral sanctions and the creation of a just global governance system rooted in dignity and in fairness. Working with like-minded forces across the world, we must be the architects of the new world order that we seek. History demands that we don't allow our legacies to be buried under the rubble of revolutionary nostalgia. We must ensure our relevance through bold action that we must take. We are the custodians of Africa's unfinished revolution. History requires that we become the builders of a new tomorrow. We should return to our countries, to our parties, to our people, with the clarity and unity of purpose, leading with courage, with integrity, and with humility. We should build an Africa where every woman, every man and child can live with dignity, thrive in peace, and realize the dreams for which so many have died. We need to reaffirm that there shall be peace and friendship, that there shall be houses and security and comfort for all, as set out in our Freedom Charter, adopted in 1955, 70 years ago, here in South Africa. Let us not only defend the gains of liberation, we should build on what we have achieved, and we have achieved a great deal, even as our detractors seek to downplay the achievements that were brought about by our liberation movements. Let us realize the hopes and the aspirations of our people as we move together in unison as liberation movements, seeking to achieve the objectives that were set out by our forebears when they established our movement to attain our independence and our freedom against apartheid and against colonialism. This is the hour and the moment that we need to regain our strength and move forward, renewed and reinvigorated, forever moving forward, as we all in unison say, Aluta continua. Amandla. Amandla. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade President. Excellencies, Comrade Secretaries General, delegates, we are now going to have a Q&A and we'll reduce it to one
das nossas independências, mas muito particularmente que esta reunião sirva para fortificar as nossas ideologias. Queremos saudar a vontade de que devemos estar juntos, como alguém diz que se quer andar sozinho, vai sozinho. Não sei se é isso. Se quer chegar depressa, vai sozinho. Mas se quer chegar ao destino, podemos ir juntos. Portanto, queremos saudar esta força que estão a dar à região. Esta região foi liberta graças a um sacrifício dos melhores filhos das nossas terras. Sacrificaram-se. E temos um dever histórico de transmitir à juventude para que assuma o passado de ontem como se fosse o passado de hoje, para os desafios para a independência econômica. Saudamos a esta união dos nossos dirigentes, dos nossos presidentes, e dissemos, como sempre, a luta continua. Obrigado.
Thank you very much, SWAPO.
Thank you very much. My name is Peam Shelenga. I come from SWAPO. I would just like to pose a question to our leaders. We have seen that over the past years, there have been that concerted efforts by the imperialists to unseat the liberation movements. How are we preparing the coming generations to face this battle, because the current generation will not be there in the long run. In SWAPO party, for example, we have a structure called the SWAPO Pioneers Movement, whereby very small children are brought into the party structures and being nurtured and molded to appreciate the doctrines and ideologies of the party. Now, what is our coordinated approach, the collective coordinated approach, to ensure that we prepare the coming generations to face that onslaught that is facing our movements? Thank you.
Thank you very much, MPLA.
Muito obrigada. Eu sou a Joana Tomás, a secretária-geral da OMA, a Organização Feminina do MPLA. Nós, em primeiro lugar, queremos agradecer a realização deste evento, que dá uma fotografia real de como estão os nossos partidos políticos. Costuma-se dizer que quando se sofre sozinha, a dor é só sua. E muitas vezes não encontras a melhor solução. Mas quando transmites para os outros o seu sofrimento, consegues realizar e resolver o seu problema com o apoio dos outros. Estamos aqui neste encontro com os partidos políticos libertadores. Acreditamos e temos acompanhado que os problemas são iguais. as nossas divergências internas, os nossos pensares diferentes, que nos colocam distante daquilo que são os ideais dos nossos pais que lutaram pela independência e pela liberdade. Queremos saudar a realização deste evento, que mais uma vez nos chama a atenção de que somos filhos do mesmo continente e lutamos contra o colonizador português e temos que continuar a consolidar as nossas conquistas e a trabalhar para o bem das nossas populações. Nós defendemos encontros regulares para juntos pensarmos o nosso continente, para juntos pensarmos os nossos países. Aqui a nossa vice-presidente disse o seguinte: se queres chegar depressa, vá sozinho. Mas se queres ir mais longe, vai na companhia dos outros. Este é o nosso pensar e este é o nosso pensar real. Queremos aqui também defender a realização periódica de encontros desta natureza, porque os problemas só são diferentes por estarem a acontecer em outros países, mas na essência, na ênfase, na essência, são iguais. Então temos que estar cada vez mais unidos para não permitir que o neocolonialismo volte a dominar os nossos países e nos tornar dependentes. Temos que estar mais unidos e trabalhar também para fortalecer as alianças e a solidariedade, porque a solidariedade é o que nos uniu no passado e é o que deve permanecer para continuarmos a liderar os nossos países. Nós defendemos também que, a nível das mulheres, possamos ter, e com a permissão das lideranças que estão aqui, encontros permanentes, porque costuma-se dizer que quando se cuida dos problemas, costuma-se dizer que deve-se dar atenção maior às mulheres, porque as mulheres são os verdadeiros pilares da sociedade. Nós, as mulheres, estamos a lutar e a conquistar o nosso espaço na política, mas precisamos de mais interação e precisamos de estar cada vez mais alinhadas para podermos resolver os problemas que afetam as mulheres a nível do nosso continente. Muito obrigado.
Thank you. ANC.
The African National Congress stands to support, to strengthen, and to salute the messages that we got from our leaders in as far as solidarity is concerned with the people of Palestine, Cuba, Western Sahara, and all other progressive forces. We also support the stance by our leaders that imperialism must be thwarted with all the means that we have at our disposal. Thirdly, that the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement must be implemented, it must be quantified, and on a regular basis we must report to our people about progress we are making in as far as the Africa Free Continental Agreement is concerned. We support the call for young people to themselves stand up and make sure that they participate in making sure that they engage the national liberation movements and governments to ensure that the future of all our countries is in safe hands of our young people, women, working together with all of us in our structures and our people. We need to work together to make sure that there's total emancipation of our women, not only in our region, but in the entire African continent. It is our hope that we will continue as national liberation movements to intensify political education, share experiences among ourselves, learn from our mistakes, and make sure that the African revolution triumphs in the end as the strategic objective that the people have struggled for and will continue to want to achieve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those comments, comrades, because there were not so much of questions. It was comments that comrades made. I'm going to ask the first DSG to read the declaration, and then the President will then respond and sign the declaration, so that when we break for lunch, we should have covered a lot of work, because other people, I'm advised by the team here, are flying out. And we are also going to have bilateral meetings. So that is what is going to happen. SG, Obed, you want to say something? You are ambushing me, comrade. Come. You must be brief. Come.
I am coming from Palestine with a delegation. I have a veteran, his name is Karim Yunus, was released recently from Israeli jails after 40 years. Mr. President, gentlemen, we came with a broken hearts. We see that the whole world, but which is not true, as if we are alone. During the last 2 days, we heard solidarity, support, sympathy, which giving us more and more power. On behalf of the Palestinian people, I tell you all, we are very proud, we are very honored also that Africa is still committed to our justice cause. We promise you that we will not give up and we will not leave Palestine. The genocide, the starvation, the killing, the destruction is unbelievable. But we know exactly, we are on the ground. During the last 2 days, the messages are great. Mr. President, with the permission of everybody, I can tell you that you are a loyal custodian for the legacy of the liberation movements, not in Africa, but all over the world. We are going back to our people, to the Palestinians, and tell them that you are not alone. Africa with you, the whole African people with you. Best regards, thanks, salute to you all, presidents, and to your people. You are a great leader, leading also a great people. Thanks, thanks, thanks on behalf of all Palestinians. And I promise you that we will, from tomorrow, start day and night to achieve our national unity, our national reconciliation, standing behind one front, the emergence of a Palestinian independent sovereign state is a must. And this will never be achieved without national unity. National unity, recognizing the UN resolution as term of reference to settle this conflict. I do believe, I suffered from the Israelis, but I think that they have the right to live in peace and security, but within their internationally recognized borders. Otherwise, I don't think that they are not more than the same, maybe, model of what happened last century somewhere against the Jews. The concentration camps, the ethnical cleansing of the Palestinian people, it's a shame. I can't understand that the grandsons of the victims of the Holocaust doing the same against the Palestinians. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you all. Looking forward to receive you soon in Palestine, a free, independent state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was the Secretary-General of Fatah movement. And I was explaining to the delegation the other day that he was the last security advisor of Comrade Yasser Arafat. Yeah, Comrade Jafril in Palestine, and till today is still standing and standing very strong. Long live Palestine, long live. Free Palestine, free. Thank you very much. Comrades, I'm now going to invite the DSG to read us the declaration of the summit.
Thank you very much, Comrade Secretary-General of the African National Congress. Celebrating the 50th anniversary of the independence of many of our countries, the Summit of Liberation Movements of Southern Africa, held from the 25th to the 28th of July 2025 here in Johannesburg, Republic of South Africa, under the theme Defending the Liberation Gains, Advancing Integrated Socio-Economic Development, Strengthening Solidarity for a Better Africa, brought together the President's Secretaries-General and representatives of the historical movements and their leagues and veterans that led the struggles for freedom. These include the ANC of South Africa, the MPLA of Angola, SWAPO of Namibia, FRELIMO of Mozambique, ZANU-PF of Zimbabwe, and Chama Cha Mapinduzi of Tanzania. The summit paid tribute to the immortal legacies of our predecessors and reaffirmed our common commitment to consolidating equality, sovereignty, social justice, and the dignity of our peoples on the path to a united, developed, and fully emancipated Africa. The summit was honored by the presence of elder statesmen of our liberation movements, including Comrade Joachim Chissano, the former president of FRELIMO and of Mozambique, as well as Comrade Thabo Mbeki, the former president of the ANC and of South Africa. Given the recent passing of the last SWAPO and Namibian presidents, Comrade Sam Nujoma and Hage Geingob, the summit paid tribute for their contributions in advancing the goals of the liberation struggle, whilst recognizing their promotion of Pan-Africanism, internationalism, post-colonial reconstruction, and development of Africa. The summit received messages of support from diplomatic missions, including the Republic of Cuba, as well as fraternal political parties, including the National Liberation Front of Algeria, Polisario Front of the Western Sahara, Al-Fatah of Palestine, the Sandinista National Liberation Front of Nicaragua, and the Communist Party of China, United Russia, and the Communist Party of Russia. The summit was also attended by various diplomatic corps, political institutions from the continent, such as the Pan-African Congress of Tanzania, Botswana National Front, the Pan-African Women's Organization, and Young Women of Africa. Recalling the outcomes of the 11th meeting of Secretaries-General of the Liberation Movement in Southern African, which took place at the Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe on the 19th March 2024, the summit reaffirmed our shared commitment to the principles of justice, equality, and self-determination for the peoples of our region. The summit also noted the progress made by Southern African countries on social, economic infrastructure, and human development. Considering the liberation movement's unwavering dedication to the liberation, progress, and development of Southern Africa, the summit sought to consolidate the aspirations of the African peoples for national and regional unity, solidarity, and cohesion, whilst overcoming cultural and religious, ethnic, and other differences. This summit reaffirmed its commitment to consolidate the aspirations of the people of Africa for greater solidarity, unity, religious and cultural diversity, and cohesion. We remain firm in our conviction that strengthening the liberation movements will aid the effective and full emancipation of the peoples of our continent. Cognizant of our historic unity and collective struggle against slavery, colonialism, apartheid, imperialism, and all other forms of oppression, The summit noted the rise of unilateralism, unipolar tendencies, as well as right-wing, narrow political, economic nationalism, and racism. The summit further recognized the growing tendencies of populism, violent extremism, sexism, xenophobia, and other related intolerances, which are contributing to the weakening of global progressive forces. Acknowledging that the challenges of socio-economic inequality, underdevelopment, conflict, political instability, external interference in our domestic affairs, including unilateral sanctions, interference in electoral processes, and internal weaknesses, have contributed to the reversal in our region. The summit calls for urgency in defending the gains of our liberation struggle through the implementation of the program of action of the summit, which program of action seeks the advancement of integrated socio-economic development by strengthening solidarity towards political, social, and economic freedom and a better Africa. The summit hereby resolves to accelerate and coordinate the implementation of the program of action by recommitting to regional unity, which requires emphasizing our African struggles and narratives which are irrevocably interconnected to our past and our future, and the need for consistent and sustained cooperation among our liberation movements, governments, and progressive civil society organizations, such as trade unions, amongst others, and strengthening of political, economic, digital, and infrastructural integration through SADC and other platforms, creating regional industrial value chains that ensure employment, innovation, and the maximization of our resources, breaking away from the dependency on the extractive model inherited from colonialism, protecting sovereignty and self-determination by firmly rejecting all forms of imperialism, neocolonialism, and external interference, and recommitting to be steadfast in our inherent responsibility for self-determination and to safeguard the sovereignty of our people. Advocating for digital sovereignty, recognizing that control over our data, communications, and technological infrastructures is essential for our national security and sovereignty in the 21st century and beyond. Addressing economic inequalities and facilitating for economic transformation through endorsing the Pan-Africanist perspective that our political liberation struggle is incomplete without economic liberation, which requires our countries to continue to urgently address inequalities rooted in colonial, neocolonial, and imperial exploitation, committing to ensuring and encouraging governments to implement policies that do away with the fragmented and extractive economic architecture to one that addresses the historical injustices committed against our people, including, amongst others, promoting equitable land distribution, industrialization, sustainable development, and inclusive and shared economies. Also pledging to combat corruption and illicit financial flows, which fundamentally undermines the gains of our liberation struggles. Deepening our advocacy for economic transformation of our region, which includes but is not limited to land reform, agrarian justice, and frameworks for equitable and inclusive socio-economic development that dismantle structural inequality and uplifts the working class and the poor. Our liberation is incomplete without economic sovereignty and justice for the oppressed. Promoting regional and continental integration that requires recommitting to the Pan-Africanist principle of regional and continental economic integration as a means to ensure the complete liberation of our region and continent. Reaffirmation of the ideals of the AfCFTA, in which end we pledge to deepen our cooperation and promote intra-Africa trade. Deepening our climate justice and sustainable development agendas to which end the summit reiterated the liberation movement's commitment to climate justice and demanded that the countries historically responsible for emissions take their responsibility through adequate funding and technology transfer for adaptation, mitigation and compensation for losses and damages, ensuring that the burden of the climate crisis does not disproportionately fall on our people. Recognizing the role played by women in the struggle, as well as the dimensions of oppression confronted by women, which include racial, gender and class oppression that requires further gender mainstreaming. Thus, the summit called for the deepening of gender mainstreaming as it is cardinal to inclusive political, social, cultural and economic development and justice. This requires more gender-responsive governance, policy making and budgeting, with a particular focus on the elimination of economic, structural and patriarchal barriers which more adversely affect rural, single and widowed women. The summit reaffirmed its zero tolerance for gender-based violence and femicide, as well as the need to improve the quality and respect for human rights, including the rights to education, reproductive health and development. In furthering some of these rights, the summit called for the 50-50 representation and the upward revision of the minimum age of marriage for girls and for policies that encourage the presence and participation of more young women in science, technology, engineering and mathematics. To these ends, we commit to working with women to advance solutions together by, amongst others, including women in peace missions and panels of eminent persons. We also call on governments and civil society to mainstream, create safe, secure environments for all women and girls. This will include women-led advocacy initiatives to promote the moral fiber of our societies and communities as facilitated for by the envisaged Women's Forum. Facilitating youth development and empowerment through recognizing the revolutionary and integral role played by young people in our liberation struggles and including them as equal partners in harnessing their creativity, innovations and energies. These must be complemented by political education and all of society initiatives in innovation, scientific research, entrepreneurship and creative industries as essential drivers for structural transformation of our economy. Summit committed to rebuilding vibrant youth-led structures within our movements to secure the generational transmission of our revolutionary principles, including unity, Pan-Africanism, non-racialism, non-sexism, whilst locating the youth at the center of these struggles. This will be foregrounded by political education schools hosted by the youth leagues of the liberation movements with support from institutions such as the party schools, as the Mwalimu Julius Nyerere School, Chitepo School of Ideology, and O.R. Tambo School of Leadership, which ought to be digitized. Summit recognized the power of culture and sports in uniting the youth and called on the youth leagues and young wings to support the creation of a liberation movement youth festival that should be supported by the envisaged Liberation Movement Youth Development Fund, complement the Liberation Movement Summits, and feature cultural exchange, music, arts, sports, and political education. Empowering liberation war veterans through recommitting to adopting economic and social promotion policies that dignify, value, and turn veterans into active agents and soldiers of economic and social development in our struggle for the economic independence of the region against neocolonialism and identified collective challenges. The summit committed to ensure that the veterans play an integral role in political education and youth mentorship programs to instill the liberation movement's values and discipline in the younger generation. The summit welcomed the recommendation for the creation of a confederation of war veterans in the region as a platform for permanent consultations in alignment with our policies. On strengthening peace and stability, We further committed to resolving conflicts within our region peacefully through dialogue and cooperation. Consequently, call on all parties in Southern Africa to uphold democratic principles and respect for human rights as a foundation for lasting peace and stability. On preserving the legacy of liberation as custodians of the region's heritage, we therefore pledge to ensure that the history of our liberation struggle is preserved for future generations. We commit to collectively and bilaterally ensure that the liberation history is not eroded in curricula and will identify and preserve the liberation routes used by our freedom fighters to educate our people about these routes and transform them into historic awareness tourism products to also benefit and uplift the affected communities. We also applaud the progress recorded by the Mwalimu Julius Nyerere Leadership School as the apex political education institution in our region and call on all liberation movements to support and fully utilize its capabilities and capacity. On further advancements of international solidarity with struggles beyond our borders, since our liberation movements drew inspiration and support from global struggles for justice, in the same spirit, we continue to express our solidarity with oppressed peoples globally, particularly in Palestine, Western Sahara, and other regions still facing colonial occupation, imperial subjugation, and unilateral sanctions. We denounce the crimes against humanity, destabilization, genocide, and ethnic cleansing by the apartheid state of Israel. We continue to support the peoples of Western Sahara and Palestine for their right to self-determination. We condemn the economic blockade against Cuba, the unilateral sanctions against Zimbabwe, and the threat of sanctions against South Africa. We stand with all progressive movements still fighting for peace, dignity, freedom, equality, sovereignty, and self-determination, and recommit to strengthening international solidarity with progressive forces worldwide. Supporting the multilateralism, the AU, G20 presidency of South Africa, and expand the role of the region in other platforms such as BRICS. As we advance multilateralism and the democratization of the institutions for global governance and causes a shift for unilateralism to multilateralism in a multipolar world, we reaffirm the central role of the AU as the unified voice of the continent. Noting that the AU now formally represents our collective interests as a member of the G20, we urge that G20 take firm and concrete decisions to end poverty, hunger, inequality, and to improve climate financing, resolve external debt issues, strengthen policies and systems to address illicit financial flows, as well as agree on frameworks for fairer financing for development. We also call for the utilization of other platforms such as G20 and BRICS to advance the principles of solidarity and equality, sustainability, and regional integration to leverage for the economic development and aspirations of the region. On strengthening accountability and introspection of our liberation movements, in the meeting, the objectives of this declaration were committed to ongoing and honest introspection about the internal challenges of our movements, including corruption, complacency, disunity, and fragmentation. Further, we agreed to institutionalize the meetings of the summit, to convene this summit of national liberation movements at regular intervals, at least every 2 years, on a rotational basis. The summit further commits to have a coordination mechanism to ensure implementation of resolutions between summits through regular meetings of Secretaries-General, which will be complemented by sector, leagues, and wings-based conferences, gatherings, and institutional mechanisms. In advancing the intentions and resolutions of the summit and this declaration, we task the triad of Secretaries-Generals, treasuries, and heads of our political education to finalize and finance the first 5-year program of action, within the next 3 months of the conclusion of this summit. The program of action must pay urgent attention, strategic priority to defending and consolidating the gains of our liberation, confronting imperialism, neocolonialism, and geopolitical subversion, and charting a radical new path of socio-economic transformation driven by grassroots mobilization, regional integration, and people-centered development, amongst others. We reaffirm the importance of good governance, accountability, and strengthening of our democratic institutions, as well as free and fair elections as essential foundations to ensure the trust of the people and the sustainability of our historical project. As we conclude this summit, we take the opportunity to applaud the progress recorded in the Southern African region, which has been recorded in spite and despite exogenous and indigenous challenges and the adverse global geopolitical dynamics. We also take pride and recognize the leadership role given by the AU to the presidents of Angola, Mozambique, and South Africa, respectively, as the current AU chair, champion for climate change and champion for infrastructure. We further renew our commitment to the revolutionary ideals that have guided us since the early days of our struggle. United in action, we will build a vibrant, resilient, and sovereign Southern Africa. We call on all civil society organizations and the peoples of Southern Africa to join the continued struggle for a just, equal, sovereign, free, peaceful political stability and prosperous region. Together we will focus our attention on the economic liberation of our people. The summit agrees to pay special attention in our struggle for economic emancipation, education, skills development, and job creation for our young men and women, and strengthen their role and voices in policy making and implementation. We'll build a Southern Africa that fulfills the dreams and aspirations of our people. Let us unite in action to address the challenges we face. The summit is appreciative for the time set aside by the leadership and delegates of the summit, as well as the warm reception and hospitality of the African National Congress of South Africa and the people of the Republic of South Africa. This is the declaration of this summit held here in Ekurhuleni in the province of Gauteng. Thanks, Comrade Chair.
Thank you very much, DSG. A round of applause once more. I'm now going to ask for the declaration and ask heads of delegation and presidents to advance here to the podium to sign the declaration. Where's the pen? Oh, it's the Secretary-General who are signing. Okay, Secretary. SGs, can you advance for the signing of the declaration? change a bit.
Yeah, maybe.
I will now invite the SGs to come in front of the political principals to show that we did really sign properly the declaration for a photo opportunity. I was Puma Glefai. Le file special. Okay. We can stand. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Comrades, we are now have arrived on the part where we will be giving pleasantries, and that will be led by President Ramaphosa. We are going to call onto the stage the former president of the ANC and the Republic of South Africa, to the stage, Comrade President Thabo Mbeki, to receive a gift. Yes, President. From the President of the ANC. Thank you very much. The next will be to Tanzania, Chama Cha Mapinduzi. To the President. We now presenting to Angola, Deputy President. These things get to be rehearsed. Thank you. That was MPLA. We now present to FRELIMO.
We need a picture of that.
You need a picture of this.
We now will present to SWAPO. And then we now present to ZANU-PF, Zimbabwe. Okay, no, thank you very much. Now President Ramaphosa will be given gifts. He will receive a gift from Chama Cha Mapinduzi. Yeah, that looked like a bag of Mamelodi Sundowns, but it's not. It's a very serious gift there inside. Thank you very much. And then President will receive a gift as well from Angola. Will be presented by the Vice President to President Ramaphosa. Then what is following now?
Now is FRELIMO. SG. Now is FRELIMO.
Yes. Now it is FRELIMO, Mozambique. This is
Mozambique, Tanzania, and Namibia.
yeah. This is Mozambique. No, there's Mozambique.
MPLA is given to Mozambique.
Oh, okay.
And it's given to Namibia also.
Okay. Now we'll have MPLA delivering to Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and so on. Comrades, come forward. The next place. And what? It's so confusing. From MPLA to President Nandi. The Deputy President will present to the President of Zimbabwe. MPLA to Zimbabwe. The Women's League will now present of the ANC South Africa, the President and the SG will present pleasantries to the President of Namibia, Comrade Nandi. Thank you. And then we'll now have Fatah. They want to present a token of appreciation to the President of the ANC. Thank you very much. We will now invite President Mnangagwa will present a token, of pleasantry to the President of South Africa. Thank you very much. Bahlekazi, le president bekufuna kize kum. Oh, SGs, why ndingabanikezi ngokuziphi? Yeah, call the SGs. We give them. At the go. Comrade SGs, can you come and get your gifts from us?
Because of the jet lag.
Thank you very much, comrades. It gives me a great joy to come to the end of this important summit. President of the ANC and President of South Africa, His Excellency Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, President of SWAPO, and President of Namibia, Her Excellency President Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa, President of FRELIMO and President of Mozambique, His Excellency President Daniel Chapo, President of ZANU-PF and the President of Zimbabwe, His Excellency President Emmerson Mnangagwa, former President of the ANC and South Africa, President Thabo Mbeki, former President of FRELIMO and Mozambique, Comrade President Joaquim Chissano, Secretaries Generals of our liberation movements, veterans and elders of our struggle, leaders and delegates, representatives of fraternal parties from across the world, members of the diplomatic corps, comrades and compatriots. It is with deep revolutionary pride and sense of duty that I deliver the closing remarks of this historic summit of the liberation movements of South Africa. This has not been merely been a meeting, it has been a rekindling of the sacred fire lit by our forebears. Their legacy demands not passive remembrance but bold action. Our task is to write the unfinished chapters of their struggle. As the ANC, we thank the liberation movements for giving us an opportunity to lead and chair the Secretariat of the Liberation Movement. Today we have delivered the summit in the presence of our leaders. We are grateful for having played a part in ensuring that we keep the liberation movements alive. Over the past 4 days, the ANC, alongside our sister movements, FRELIMO, MPLA, SWAPO, ZANU-PF, and CCM, has engaged in profound reflection and recommitment. We have revisited the epic chapters of our past. We have adopted the declarations that we have adopted here today. We want to thank the following. We want to thank all our sister parties for making it possible for us to have this summit. And thank you very much to all the Secretaries General and presidents of our sister parties for making this a great, great success. Thank you indeed. We want to thank the media for covering this summit live from the beginning since we started up until today. So thank you, media, for doing a great job and covering our story. We want to thank the technical teams that were working on the summit, Comrade DSG1 of the ANC and all the team, all the volunteers, all the musical groups, cultural groups that were working here and supporting our summit with the RDP of the soul, musically. Thank you very much for participating. And we want to thank our former elders, Comrade Joachim Chisano, President, and President Thabo Mbeki for gracing this important summit. Thank you very much. Aluta continua. And all our sister parties across the globe, from Cuba, Nicaragua, Sandinista in Nicaragua, Palestine, Sahrawi, the Communist Party of China, the Russian Federation, and the Russian Communist Party. I think I've mentioned all who came and graced this important occasion. Thank you very much for attending this summit. We will now want to invite Tanzania as they take over from the ANC. We want to thank the cooperation of everyone we have worked with Secretary-General since we took over from Zimbabwe. Comrade Obert Mpofu, Dr. Obert Mpofu, in Victoria Falls. And thank you very much for your cooperation, and everyone for making this summit and our working relations even easier and quite effective. So, thank you very much as we come to the conclusion. And now I'm going to invite our comrade from Tanzania, Comrade Pinda, to give us a few remarks as he take over from the ANC to coordinate and to head the work of the liberation movement. I hope we treated you well, comrade, and you had a great time. It was an honor indeed to oversee and work with the liberation movements. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies and comrades, I've been given this opportunity, and I was trying to find out from the big boss behind me. I said, what am I going to tell them? He said, just acceptance speech. I said, oh, wow. If that is the case, then there's no problem. But allow me, I just want to say a little bit about the school. It was made in reference here. All that I would say is, it's a very lucky community, the 6 brother countries, 6 parties. We are united from the cause which made us come together, and that was liberation. Ever since, we have not lost each other. We are still working together. And I believe what has actually come out of this particular summit, there are quite a number of things that we have captured, which, if we stand firm in implementation of some of the ideas, this community is going to grow in a very positive way. We are lucky because we are a like-minded community. And that's why I thought I should say this. And the school, the Mwalimu Julius Nyerere School, is there for this community, first and foremost. It started in 2008, probably some of you know that. Because it took time before it was completed. We completed it, I think, in 2022 or somewhere around there. So now it's there, ready for anything that the community wants that school to do. Lastly, I just want to thank our leaders, and particularly ANC President, for the good work they've done. Ever since we came here, it has been a pleasant stay, but at the same time, a learning stay. So let me hope that through the ANC Secretariat, and now that we've come out with a resolution, let's sit together. The earlier the better. You can co-opt one member from each member state to come now, sit down together, then come up with a program that will take us to a certain level in some of the areas which are critical. And you mentioned most of it is related to economics. So thereafter then we can say, well, we have now done well. I'm still very new to some of these functions, and it was just luck that my president could not come. And luckily they said, Mr. Pinda, go and join the elders. But I only hope that one of these days, if we don't have, we might come up with an idea of these 6 countries and the vision of the group. For all those common ideas, let them go through each one of these countries. Then through their parties, we can go now on a particular area where we want to implement this in the next 5, 10, 20, 15, whatever, long-term perspective. I'm saying if it's not there. But if it's there, then it's up to us, we who are still learning, to say, why don't you bring up to the attention now some of us so that we can also see what has gone into it and how we should proceed. Otherwise, it was just an acceptance speech. All that I would say is congratulations to all of us for what we have earned as a community. Mzee Thabo Mbeki, I'm very glad to see you again after a long, long time. So I was looking at you, but I didn't know how exactly I would be able to say hello, how are you? But finally it happened. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, comrades. We have now arrived at the end of our successful summit. I'm going to invite the Secretaries-General to come to the stage for a photo op with the President as we depart from here. I'm also going to ask President Mbeki to join us on the stage for a photo op. From here, we all go to the main hotel where we had our lunch. From here, all delegates and the staff and others opposite this place where you had your lunch yesterday. And then the presidents and the SGs will go to the 5th floor of the hotel. That's where lunch is prepared for us, former president, and the SGs. The rest of us will go where we had lunch yesterday. Aluta! Aluta! Long live the liberation movement, long live. Thank you very much, comrades. Safe journey back home. And then all SGs on the podium for a photo op. Thank you very much. And the photographers of all sister parties, you line up here for a photo op. Thank you very much, comrades. You go where we had all the delegates, go where we had lunches.